to our preseason when we were telling folks our summer preview of films that we were looking forward to. Indy was one of those, but also there was a new Wes Anderson film that we were both looking forward to as well. So let me ask you the question: did this one disappoint like Indiana Jones did?
It certainly did not disappoint. In fact, I think Asteroid City is my favorite film of 2023 thus far.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so it's a sci-fi romantic dramedy, and on the surface, the narrative of the film itself is displayed as this period piece that's set in 1955, and there's this group of students and parents that travel to this middle of nowhere town called Asteroid City, and there's this like celestial event, this junior stargazer convention. But we also realize that the narrative that we see playing out is actually the televised production of a fictional stage play called Asteroid City within the real world universe of the film. So very meta, very
Yes.
self-aware, and so like this internal storytelling of the play, comments on the external storytelling of the movie that we see playing out and vice versa. So it's yeah, it definitely Wes gets to play around with a lot of the perspectives in that area.
Yeah, this honestly, it visually looked like a Wes Anderson film, but it felt much more like a Coen Brothers film in a lot of different ways for me. I enjoyed what I was seeing. And let me just say this up front. Wes Anderson films are not the typical audience pleasers. You're not going to go for a general audience win with this kind of film. It's incredibly different, as most Wes Anderson films are. But I think this one takes different even to another level because from a story standpoint, if you're going in expecting a sci-fi alien film, yeah, you're going to get a little bit of that, but not in a way you've probably ever seen before. It does a lot of things tongue in cheek. You've got some quirky characters, which you always see in Wes Anderson films, as you do in Coen brother films as well. But you've got some amazing cast attached to this. And the location is a very simple location. There's not many locations on this particular film. So from a budgeting standpoint for the production design, they didn't have to spend a whole lot on this, or not compared to what you're going to find in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One.
Yeah, they didn't have to spend a lot of money on locations, but on the actual art direction and production design and set decoration, that I'm sure took an insane amount of time and energy and resources because, as we all know from Wes's filmography, that he's extremely articulate and extremely particular about, every detail that's within the visual frame. And I think just this is that is magnified, more than almost any of other Wes Anderson films in Asteroid City. Just this one town, but basically they built a whole town for this film, and it's gorgeous and beautiful, but also kind of balances that with this loneliness that all these characters are feeling in this town and this isolation. So really interesting how all those ideas were balanced.
Yeah, and there are a group of teenagers who are all relatively brilliant in their own right, and some of them are even brilliant beyond definition. You even see them at one point, kind of in a campfire type circle, going around and playing some games that only the nerds would know how to play. That's for sure. I did really appreciate the quirkiness in the characters as I do with many of these films. And man, the cast is pretty vast. And as far as the names that you would know, including some cameos, Margot Robbie shows up in a very small cameo. Jeff Goldblum in a very small cameo as well. But you've also got Bryan Cranston, who is almost this Rod Serling type character from a Twilight Zone, who is, talking you through the story. But Jeffrey Wright, Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson, Jason Schwartzman, Tilda Swinton, Edward Norton. I mean, I'm leaving out many because there are so many.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about Tom Hanks for a minute. This was his first collaboration with Anderson. And so Hanks plays the role of Stanley Zach, who's, this older gentleman, and he's recently lost his daughter. And he has a strained relationship with, the widowed husband of his daughter, who was played by Jason Schwartzman. But Hank's character still has a deep love for his four grandchildren. So there's a conversation between Hanks and Schwartzman, where Hanks says he's talking to this idea of seeking peace and contentment in the midst of all this just immense heartbreak and immense pain. And here's the quote from Hanks' character. He says, "In my loneliness, I've learned to give complete and unquestioning faith to the people I love. I don't know if that includes you, but it included my daughter and your four children." And he's talking to Jason Schwartzman's character. And I think that really just sums up the heart of this movie. And that was like that's probably going to be on my year-end list of, favorite movie moments of 2023. I think just that conversation right there is going to be one that sticks with me for a long time to come.
This is a beautifully unique and different kind of film. And it is one that I think more people should see and see it for what it is. But it does take a certain type of audience, I think, to appreciate a film like this. And you and I have seen so many, and we continue to see so many films that we kind of know what we're going into when we're going into a Wes Anderson type of film. And so I'm pleased that we got a chance to check this one out. Asteroid City still in theaters for this summer. Any final thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share before we give our ratings and take a quick intermission?
Oh, yeah. So recently, Wes Anderson, or the style of his films, has inspired a TikTok trend. But I think what separates Wes Anderson's movies themselves from something like a TikTok trend is that there's always a beautiful substance beneath that style. It's one thing just to create a little 30-second video that's, does all the symmetry and has all these fun little character movements and this fun lighting and color palette. But when you're committing that to an entire feature film and doing something underneath the surface with the actual themes you're working with, that's what makes them so special. And I think the best way I can put it is that, sometimes life feels like a dream, but also sometimes dreams feel almost more vivid than real life. And I think Wes Anderson's movies walk that tightrope. And that's why I just connect with his movies so deeply. And that's why Asteroid City is, my favorite current film of the year so far. And I'm going to give it a solid A right now.
Marvelous thoughts, Thomas. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Really appreciate that. A solid B rating for me for Asteroid City. I appreciated it on many levels as well. And you can still find that in theaters this summer. And as we approach award season in a few months, as Thomas said, it's going to be on his list, at least it is now. I think you're going to find it on more list as the year wraps.